All right, everybody. I just want to blab away for a bit. Um, I was just talking to this guy, and we were talking about history, and he was talking about history in the way that all you guys out there, think about it, right? But like history is just filled with like toxic political polemicists. Like, oh my god, like shit. It's filled with all this like stupid propaganda. So let me tell you guys about the real history of the world. Right, and if you want to talk about the real history of the world, then you should begin not with the history books, you should begin with science. Right? That's where you should fucking begin with history. Shit, man, this fucking beer is spilling everywhere. So you talk about science, right? That's where the real history of the world begins. Now, if we want, so let's go back 12,000 years ago. 12,000 years ago, this was, as the scientists will tell us, the end of an ice age, right? We were living in an ice age 12,000 years ago. Now, an ice age isn't like the movies where the whole planet is filled with ice. Like, that's not an ice age. The ice age merely means there's more ice at the poles, right? But more ice at the poles means the coastlines are going to be a lot further out, right? And nowadays, all over the planet, people are finding cities, underwater cities, and underwater archaeology is beginning to happen. Because there's all this stuff. There's all these fucking cities out there under the water, in the coastline, and so like you look at most of human civilization nowadays. Most of human civilization nowadays lives on the coastline. Furthermore, who out there knows how to make a pencil? Who out there knows how to make a computer from raw materials to finished product so that you can doom scroll? Nobody. If those people were to die off, then society would devolve. In fact, we've seen the the evolution of society in the Roman Empire, right? The Roman Empire had all this technology and science and engineering. Um, and then the Roman Empire fell, and nobody knew how to make Roman style buildings. So we can actually see the evolution of society. So think about that, right? I mean, society is going to be the same. You're going to have um, uh, the tyrants who are trying to control information, right? If you want to be a successful tyrant, then you got to control the information, you know. And so, I mean, you're gonna make you're gonna make certain knowledge a scarcity. So do you look at our society nowadays, and production is monopolized by the elites. No, none of you out there know how to produce anything, right? You're a bunch of scavengers. You don't know how to produce shit, right? And you don't know how to produce shit because you get all this fucking education, but particular information is really being kept from you, right? Because they don't want to train competitors, right? They want to train workers, and so what's happening nowadays is going to have happened in the past, right? And so 12,000 years ago, society was advanced, uh, very, very advanced. 12,000 years ago, they weren't hunter gatherers. No, I mean, some people say they may have had helicopters, right? And people are like, oh, that's stupid. How could they have had helicopters? Well, who knows? Who the fuck out there, like, out of all you listening to me, could any of you make a helicopter? I couldn't. None of you could. If you have this epic event, like cities being drowned because the ice is melting, and you have all these, and that's where all the flood myths come from. All over the world, these flood myths come from what? Science. It's the end of the ice age. It's not this mystical. Oh, there are flood myths all around the world. That's mystical. No, that's not mystical. That's fucking science. You know, like shit. Like most of the people nowadays live on the coastline. If the coastlines got fucking flooded, then most of society would be dead. And it's only the hicks in the hills that are going to be alive. Um, so, like that's I think that's what I totally see as the real history. Um, of the world. If we want to get into history, okay, one of the fascinating things to me is apparently there are these ancient texts which which talk about the moon, right? And the moon was a new feature of the sky. Like the moon appeared in the sky, and apparently there's time before the moon, right? But I heard, and anybody out there who knows about any of this, I would love to relearn it because I don't know who said it, but I was just like flipping through stuff online, and I heard about this one scientist one day, and this one scientist claimed that Earth and Mars used to be one planet, right? Earth and Mars used to be one planet, and so in other words, this planet used to be bigger than it is now, right? And he according to him, and these are calculations that the scientist made, right? These are this is not a theory. This is scientific mathematical calculations that he made. So according to him, we used to our planet used to orbit um, one of the gas giants. I think it was the one all the esoteric circles talk about, Saturn maybe. Um, anyways, we used to be a purple people at one point. But anyways, he said that we used to orbit another planet, and then a big ass asteroid came and hit the planet and broke it apart, and part of it became Earth and the other part became Mars, and the moon is actually a part of the rock that hit us, right? um, and to me that's like, to me this makes sense because again it's all about science. If you want to talk about real history, you don't talk about the history books, you want to talk about science. um, Damn, I mean, think about that, peoples. But it makes sense to me because there's this conspiracy theory that there are these giant bones that we're finding, and these giant bones are being hidden from us. Now, one can say, "Oh, that's a conspiracy," but okay, here's one thing I heard. There was this family out in the desert, and they were geologists, and they were digging, and they found this like 90+% intact Tyrannosaurus Rex, which is unheard of apparently, because they might find 60% of it or this or that. Um, and what they did was they took this Tyrannosaurus Rex that they found, and they put it on display to get people in, and they were getting money. But then all of a sudden one day, government shows up, right? The government shows up, and they fucking just snatch this fucking Tyrannosaurus Rex for themselves and hand it over to a private dealer, which is how government really works. But like that, and this is that's real, like what I just said. And so if they did that to these people, then they could easily be covering up the giant bones. Easily. Like if they can just fucking snatch somebody's property, their hard work, and just hand it over to some rich asshole, um, and win in the courtroom, then shit, they can easily hide giant bones, right? But so let's say there are giant bones in there. So if you go to the science of it, right? If 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 we used to be on a bigger planet, then we used to be bigger people, right? Our current trajectory is it. If we used to be on a bigger planet and now we're on a smaller planet, that means we are going to get smaller, right? And of course you're going to have the taller people and the smaller people, and of course they're going to fight with each other. I mean, shit. Um, but the giants are on the way out because we're just a smaller planet. And being a smaller planet, so like a lot of these dinosaur bones, we used to be bigger people. Um, and so these dinosaurs weren't as big to them as they are to us, right? It's all about scale. Now they still would have been pretty big because I think the giants were like 9, 10 feet. So maybe more. I don't know. Well, that's the giants that are attested to in the supposed history books. Um, but yeah, no. So I don't know. It's like it makes total sense. We were the giants, but it's just we evolved into shorter creatures once we had a smaller planet. And I would love to hear about this scientific theory again. So if anybody has any information on who this scientist is who had this theory, but I heard about it one time, and I heard about it and I was like, okay, but then I started thinking about it and I'm like, oh my god, it makes sense. It makes sense if you're, if like, if the pressure on this planet were to, if the pressure and the carbon dioxide were to increase on this planet, then we would start to increase in size. And I believe I learned about it one time. There was a scientist who was doing that, and he had this environment that he created, and he increased the pressure, and he increased the carbon dioxide, and every single plant, insect, and animal that went into this environment and stayed in there, they started to form giganticism, right? So we could totally be taller than we are, if the pressure and the carbon dioxide were increased on this planet. Um, and so, I mean, I don't know, if I think if you want to really know history, you have to start with science, um, rather than the stupid history books, right, written by idiots that we praise as if they're not human, right? But but like going back to the end of the Ice Age, I think there was a total Roman style de-evolution of society at the end of the Ice Age. Um, and so that was 12,000 years ago, and it took a few thousand years for society, for man to get back on track, right? And that's when our so-called history, quote unquote, actually begins. But yeah, no history.